Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1112 Application Programming with Java course, I have been going through a series of video presentations I'm doing based on the books used for the class. And the first book, as you can see on the screen, is Java Quick Syntax Reference. It has about 23 or 22 chapters. So far I've done presentations on the first 8 chapters, kind of the non-object oriented chapters. Alright, now that's a little bit of a generalization. Kind of holds true though. So I'm going to jump into Chapter 9, which is entitled Methods. Methods are reusable code blocks that will only execute when called. Well, it's more than that. Methods are basically they're functions that are inside of a class. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the example that I've been using, and I'm hoping it's still up here. I had to reboot my machine a couple times because I've had some problems with it. And that looks good. Alright. Again, I'm going to just take everything that I've got in here and I'm going to comment it out. Alright. Now, I doubt it, but if anybody actually is interested in what I put into this file, you can always just ask me and I can make it available to you. Alright, so let's do this. Let's have a call in here. I'm going to make a call to a method, and I'm going to call it say hello. Alright, don't worry, I get that because I don't have a method called say hello. In fact, let's do this. Let's take all these comments that we have here, and let's see if we can end this here. And I want to see if I'm going to get any errors or not. Yeah, I am. So now all that area is commented out. I'm still going to have an error, so I need one more right curly brace. There we go. All right, now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write myself another method. Alright, I want it to be inside of the class, and I'll make it public, and it has to be static because it's going to be called by main. Public static say hello. How about void? Now notice how the error there goes away. And I'm just going to say sout, well, hello, sout, hello. Alright, so let's save this, run it, see if I get hello on the screen. And there it is. Alright, well that's good. Now, what if I put this into a for loop? For int LCV, remember I like to call my loop control variable LCV, equal 1, LCV less than or equal to 25 plus plus LCV. Alright, and I'm going to call this 25 times now, I believe. Why is it no red? Somehow I lost my ending curly brace. There we go. That's why I like to put my curly braces on their own line. To me, it makes it easier to see what's going on. Now, save this. Run it. And what you'll notice is I now have hello 25 times. Is that a big thing? No, but what all I was trying to show you is you can call a method more than once. Alright, so let's do this. In fact, let's grab this whole method that we just wrote. I'll get an error because it already exists. How about we'll call this say by. All right. And then what we'll do is we will call say by. And let's see if we're doing that 25 times. Hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye, etc. So you can see that's happening. I could also have after I call say hello, I'm going to call say bye. Let's see if I get the same kind of output. Hello, goodbye, etc. So we will save, run it, and as you see, hello, goodbye, etc. All right. Now, is this really useful? Let's make it useful. All right. So I'm going to do this. Int number 1 equals 37. Int number 2 equals 13. Int sum equals add 2. We'll pass number 1 and number 2. I'm going to get a bunch of errors, but I'll write these afterwards. All right. All right, so first we'll have sum, then we'll have diff, and we'll call this sub2, and we'll have prod, and we'll call that molt2, and we'll have quote, and we'll call that div2. How about calling this one just mol2, so they're all nice and uniform. And finally, mod, and we'll call that rem2. All right. Now I'm getting errors because none of these are written. So I'm going to change this to public static int Now notice when I put that in there, I have to let the system know the kind of variables these are. Int. All right. And also, these are called actual parameters because number 1 and number 2 are their actual names. But they don't have to be called that here. So let's just call these N1 and N2. And we'll just return N1 plus N2. All right. Now, to get rid of this say by thing, we don't need it. And let's hit enter a couple times here. All right, so now we've got add 2. The second one was sub 2. And we want to return minus. And then we have mul 2. And we want to return times. Then we have div 2. And we want to return divide. And finally we have rem 2. And we want to return modulo. All right. Let's call one more routine that we're going to make up. And we'll call this display all. And we'll pass number 1, number 2, sum, diff, prod, quotes, and mod. All right. Again, we're getting this red because this hasn't been written yet. Public, static, void, display all. Now, I'm going to put this on its own line. Int N1, int N2, sum, difference, product, quotient, and remainder. module, sorry. And what are these? Well, one thing I want to do is I want to come back and these two I want to make doubles. So I can get the part in there that is the decimal part. All right, now that'll screw up all this. We'll fix it in a minute. Okay, let's pretty it up. All right, those are all okay. These will now have to change. Int sum, double difference, I'm sorry, that's going to be int difference, double for the number 1, number 2, sum, difference, product, quotient, and what am I missing? We passed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. Looks to me like that's correct. Why am I getting an error there? Probably because I don't have any body written here. Okay. All right. Now, believe it or not, I've got a little calculator program already finished. But before I do that, all right, a couple things. First of all, every time I run it, it's going to have 37 and 13 as its numbers. We'll fix that in a bit. But let's write our display all routine in here. So I want to say N1 plus N2 equals, this looks pretty ugly, I understand that, the sum. Okay? In fact, so N1 minus N2 is going to equal the difference. N1 times N2 is going to equal the product. N1 divided by N2 is going to equal the quotient. And finally, N1 modulo N2 is going to equal the remainder, which we called M for modulus. All right? Well, let's save this and run it, see if I get any errors. Yes, I already did run it. 37 plus 13 is 50. I thought I could make this bigger. There probably is a way, it's just, I'm forgetting it right now. 37 minus 13, 37 times 13, 37 divided by 13. Well, that is wrong. We'll have to fix that. And 37 modulo 13. All right. So a couple things to fix. First thing to fix. With the modulo, doesn't have to be a double. Why? Because it gives you the whole number remainder. So let's change this and make that an int. All right, that'll fix that. Now, when we do the actual division here, let's do this. We will cast one side of this. There we go. That should have been a double to begin with. Let's run it again. Now I get this god-awful number that we'll worry about fixing later. Point is, I got a little mini calculator. Let's take a quick look at everything that's in here, because this will pretty much suffice for methods. Now, we have to learn how to come in here and ask the user for information. We'll do that soon. But what do we have here? We're creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, of which 4 are ints and 1 is a double. And we're saying the results of those variables is the return value of a function called add2, sub2, mul2, div2, and rem2. So this function has to return an int, has to return an int, has to return an int, has to return a double, has to return an int. All right. This function doesn't return anything because we're not putting it into anything, so its return type is void. So when you look here, sum, return n1, which is 37, plus n2, which is 13. So it takes 50 is what gets returned, and it puts it into sum. 37 minus 13, it takes 24 and puts it into diff. 37 times 13, what is that? 481, something like that. Yep. And it puts that into prod. Does the division, it's 2 point something. Since it's doing the division, and I want to keep, since I'm doing a division technically between two ints, and I want to be able to keep the decimal place, I cast one of them to a double. And finally, I do the modulus. Then when I print them out, 37 plus 13 equals 50, etc. All right, now that was kind of quick, but I showed you how to define a method. I showed you how to call a method. I showed you method parameters. And I showed you a return statement. Now there's method overloading. So let's quickly look at that. Method overloading and passing arguments. Is that all we've got left here? Yes, it is. So with method overloading, if I wanted to come in, I could go in and write something like this. You'll notice that here, let's just use the add. I'm going to go in, I'm going to copy this. Whoops. I'm going to copy this and put it right beneath here. Now I'm going to get an error because they look exactly the same. But I'm going to say here double, double, double. All right. What did I just do? I overloaded the method. When you overload a method, what appears in the parentheses must be different. The method names are the same. I think I could even make that an int, and I think it still wouldn't give me an error, except, yeah, for this. So I could cast this whole thing as an int. Looks kind of screwy, but I think that'll work. There. What I'm trying to get at is when you overload a method, what appears in the parentheses, also known as the method signature, must be different. Now, only one thing has to be different. So that could be an int, and that would still work. All right, so that's overloading methods. Two methods have the same name, but have different method signatures. Technically, the signature is the whole thing here, so they have to be different. What else did we miss? Passing arguments. Well, I've actually shown you that. Java is different from many languages, many other languages, in that all method parameters are passed by value, which means you pass a copy. They cannot be passed by reference. And that's for primitive types. So it's only a local that's being passed in there. Why is that important? Okay, well, I will leave you with this chapter with this one. This is silly. I would never want to do this, but let's come back in here where we've got this return statement. I'm going to say n1 equals 100, n2 equals 200. All right, so I've temporarily changed the values of n1 and n2. Put them there. Let's get rid of this overloaded one. I've shown you this. So now, if we run this, Not good. 37 plus 13 equals 300. Because this is a copy of N1 and a copy of N2. So I'm adding the two copies, but I'm going back and I'm putting it in here where it's really expecting the addition of those two. This can lead to serious errors, all right, and things that you shouldn't do. And we'll talk about that again in later chapters. So when I return in just a minute, we'll talk more on the object-oriented side and talk about classes.